And hello, and welcome back to Pathways with me, your host, Tod Allen Baker. And welcome back. We're in the studio today, and I have a great, special, amazing guest today. Her name is Paula DeLuise. I, goodness, probably worked with Paula back in 2003. She was there during my appendicitis attack, and I almost died, and it was like a whole horrible thing, and got my appendix taken out in Mexico, but that's another story. And she was a really big help when I came back into the show, and was a true blue friend. And we get together every now and then, and I've seen her off and on. Just a very special lady, and she has a wide range of things that she has done throughout her career, and I can't wait to hear her story. There's probably things I don't know. So I can't wait to see her. I saw her about 6 years ago when you were judging here in Indianapolis, and she's just one of these beautiful, probably one of the most beautiful dancers I've ever worked with, and just stunning to watch. Just personality plus, and just such a technician, and just a joyful soul to be around. We affectionately call her Princess Paula, because that's just who she is. And it's just a joy to have her on and see her face today. So I would like to give you Paula. Hey, Paula, how are you?
Hi, Toodles. How are
Uh,
you?
yeah, my other nickname. I'm good. So good to see your face. Excited to do this with you. Uh, so I'll just start how we always usually start the questions. And how did you get started in this business, and where are you from, and how did this journey in show business kind of take effect for you?
So I was born and raised on Long Island, New York. Um, and I started dancing at the age of 3 at a dance studio. And when I was probably about, I don't know, 6 years old, the studio director came in and he saw me in one of my classes, and my mom happened to be in the waiting room. And he said, "Whose child is that?" And my mom said, "Oh, that's mine. That's my daughter, Paula." And he said, you really need to put her in our company, our dance company, have her come to the auditions." So I went to the audition to be on their competitive dance team, and got through. And so started competing when I was 6, 7 years old. We were always taught to be versatile. So we took tap, jazz. We took 3 classes of ballet every week. It wasn't like we got to choose what classes we wanted to take, which now as a professional, I'm so thankful and grateful for, because there's a lot of dancers who are we call one trick ponies.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. You totally vibed me. I was going to say, we have so many one trick ponies nowadays.
Yes, and
It's
that's
so funny.
fine if, like, you know exactly that's what you wanna do. If you wanna be part of a dance company that just focuses on modern contemporary, that's great if that's all you focus on. But when you're trying to do musicals and be on Broadway, they sometimes ask, they want you to do tap all of a sudden, which I there are now 2 shows I know of that have tap in them, which is great because I feel like that was a dying art.
Mhm.
Not many shows in the
It
last few
comes and
years.
goes. It goes in
Yeah,
waves on Broadway. For a minute there, tap was back, and then now it went away, and now like
now
five
it's
years
coming
later,
back,
it's coming
yeah,
back. Yeah.
which I'm so happy about, because that was one of our strengths, but we were taught to be well versed in every single style. And although, ballet personally was not my favorite, that is the basis for your technique, and in all styles of dance. That's where your core, your center, that's where you learn your posture and all the basic positions, to be able to do kicks, turns, jumps. All of that
And
comes from your ballet training. So although it may not be your favorite style, it is so important. And so I'm so grateful for the training that I did have. And knock wood, I am going to be 44 years old, and I have not had an injury because of dancing, ever. And
mhm.
let's hope that that stays that way. But I'm just very grateful for the training that I had. So I trained in the same dance studio with the same teacher. He's like another father to me. Like growing up, I spent a lot more time with him than I did my own family because we were always in rehearsal. Anytime we were off from school, there wasn't going on vacation. We were in the dance studio rehearsing our competition dances. I had a shirt that said, I can't, I have dance, because my friends would always be like, oh, can you come to the movies? Oh, can you go to this party with us? And I'd be like, no, can't, I have dance, I have dance. So it was like a running joke. But I'm so thankful that I had that. I mean, dance is such a basis for discipline. And even if you take dance while you're growing up, but you don't choose it as a career, it still can help you. All of those qualities and lessons that we learn from our dance training and education can carry you through any and all aspects of your life. So it's so important. But yeah, so I did that all throughout high school. I competed until I graduated high school. And then I did do a freshman year as a dance major at Adelphi University, which is on Long Island. It was, an hour away from my parents. So I did stay on campus, which was, a fun experience for me. This school focused heavily on modern and ballet, which ballet, again, great. Modern wasn't something that we trained in growing up. So I was very happy to have that be a part of my dance bag.
And I
If
think
you
that's a lost art as well. I mean, you have your New York companies, and a lot of college programs still delve into the art of modern. And I think a lot of studios competition studios mainly go for contemporary,
right, yeah,
or what we call contemporary, contemporary
yes,
lyrical
lyrical.
combined. And I think the roots of modern, no matter if you're studying Duncan, Horton, Ailey, Graham, those are the roots. And I think we don't teach that as studio competition people, because I work in both. I work in one of the, like, a high level ballet academy,
Hmm.
right? And I teach musical theater and leaps and turns and jazz to them. Um, and then I work in a competition studio, stereotypical competition studio, where, it is contemporary based. And I find that a lot around here. There is one studio around here that does straight modern, and we all came from the same college, so it was very modern based. And they really keep to their roots, and they score well because they do a lot of, like, really old school modern. And I don't think that we should forget that's the roots of our contemporary, and that's not what we're taught or what we're teaching a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
kids. And especially when we get to the convention world, we don't we go right for that contemporary, and we skip where the roots came from, or where we came from as a dancer, how contemporary came up.
Hmm. No, totally agree. Um, did you work with Lonnie Davis ever?
Lonnie and I were always in rehearsal. I actually was going to reach out to him last night to do one of these as well,
Oh,
because
you should.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it would be.
Because
And he would give you, if there is anyone that you should go take a class from I mean, he can teach anything, but specifically modern technique, it is Lonnie. I mean, you can see on his social media when he posts about his students or any videos of his students, it's just amazing.
he still
And
keeps to the roots when I watch
oh,
his
yes.
stuff. Like, he's
Yeah,
very keeps to the roots and the core of your Duncan, your Graham, your Ailey. Yes.
very true. Yeah, you should definitely have him on. He would be such a treat.
Noted.
Um,
Yeah, I was always in rehearsal with Lonnie, and I did an install with Lonnie when he was in the cast. So I was with him for like 2 weeks when I did a handover, and I stayed on with Lisa, and
uh-huh.
we did an install, and I helped with his cast. So yeah, I worked with Lonnie, but not in the same cast. We were always in opposite rehearsals. I was going in, he was coming, I was going out, or he was coming in, or vice versa.
I was fortunate enough to do my very first ship contract, but we'll get there in a second. But anyway, so in that 1 year of college that I did as a dance major, I got that very strong base of modern technique, which again, very grateful for. not particularly my cup of tea. I didn't have an interest in being in a modern dance company, but helped me become an even more well-rounded dancer because of that little bit of training that I did receive. And at the I was so fortunate that I was still close enough to New York City being at this school. It was in Garden City, New York,
Mhm.
but still being close enough to home to be by my family. But they did bring in all these wonderful teachers from New York City to come and just guest teach for us, which was amazing. But I also had the opportunity to go to auditions. So if there was an audition that I wanted to go to, the train station was right there. I could hop into the city. They allowed me to do that instead of going to class that day. I went into the audition, and it was just a wonderful thing. So towards the end of that first freshman year, I decided that if I wanted to continue to audition and be in musicals and be on Broadway, I needed to just get out there, for me personally.
Mhm.
Like, I did my training from when I was 3 years old. I just wanted to get out there while my body was working and I was in good condition, like, let's just try it, let's just do it. So I made a deal with my parents, and I said, "Please give me 1 year. I'll stay at home with you, I'll take the train into the city, I'll go to every audition I can, and if nothing happens, if I don't book anything in that 1 year, I will go back to school, but for something else, not for dance." I just felt like my parents had paid enough money through my training from 3 to 17, 18 years old for me to have a very strong education in dance, to have what it takes to do it and make a career out of it, that I didn't want to use money anymore for that. If I was going to go back to school, I wanted it to be something else that I could then have a plan B for, which is very important as dancers for us to have that plan B. God forbid something happens, or when we're old and we're done and we just can't do
A
it
different
anymore. Like,
pathway, and that's why,
yes,
yeah.
what is that transition for us? What does that look like? But at the time, at 19, I didn't know what that was going to be. But I made that deal with my parents, and they said, "Okay, you got it." I was taking class at Broadway Dance Center, going to steps, taking class. That was my education. Instead of going to college, that's what I was doing.
Mhm.
And that was like May of 2019, and then the beginning of June, Royal Caribbean was having their audition in New York City, and I had never been on a cruise ship, never actually even seen one in person
You
at
mean
this point in my life.
2000, no, not
Not
2000,
no,
not
sorry, 19
I was like,
1999.
I met you in
Sorry. Yeah.
2002.
No, that's mom brain kicking in and not knowing what day it is or what
Like,
time.
computing that in my head, I'm like,
Thank you
a
for
little
that
longer.
correction. No, sorry, 1999. Um, And so I had never seen a cruise ship, but I said, you know what? This looks like fun. Let, let me just go try. There were 200 female identifying dancers at this audition. The line was like wrapped around the building. I think I managed to get myself in the first group. I got there very early. I think I was like number, I don't know, 80 something. And they took us in like in large groups, just did a technique across the floor, like step batma, and then maybe like a pirouette combination to make a first initial cut. So I went into the holding room, and I'm, 5'2.5", 5'3", and there's all these like tall, leggy girls. And so immediately got into my head and I was like, I'm not that tall. Like, I these girls are like holding their legs up over their heads. I mean, how am I going to compete with
And their
this?
one leg is taller than you.
Exactly. So I got a little intimidated, but I said, nope, you're here. You're going to do this. And so we went in the room and they taught us that step bottom combination. I was like, okay, like I know how to kick as high as I can from me. So that's all I can do. And then we did our pirouette combination, which thankfully that is a strength of mine as well. So nailed that. And it's so interesting how you see some people in these holding rooms, even to this day. Like, I'll still look. I'm not a flexible dancer, but I know how to use what I do have to the
Mhm.
best of my ability. Um, And it'll still kind of intimidate me a little bit when I see people like holding their legs, like wrapping it around their head 20 times. But then when you go into the audition room, if that's all they know how to do, it shows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that intimidation just goes right out the window for me because I was taught to dance from the heart. That's what
Say that
dancing
again.
is. I was taught that you dance from the heart, that you can't teach that. You can teach steps, you can teach technique, you can teach people to do, as many turns, as many leaps and jumps and crazy, all these crazy tumbling things, but you can't teach somebody how to dance. That comes from within.
Mm, yes. That's
And
little magic. Yeah.
yes. And that's what I have. So I knew like I don't need to wrap my leg around my head 20 times. Like, sure, would I love to be able to do that? Absolutely. But when you go in and you trust your heart,
Mhm.
that's what sells you and gives it to you. That's what shows them what you have. And that's why I said at that point in my life, like I just wanted to do it because I need to show these people I can do it. Like me going in there with my degree is not going to say, "Oh, I can do this."
Mhm.
Like, sure, I'm sure it has helped a lot of other people, but for me personally, I just wanted to go and do it. And so anyway, at this audition, I ended up getting called back. But then they needed to see the rest of the groups, the females, and then they needed to see all the male identifying dancers, which there were not 200, but there were actually quite a lot of male identifying dancers at this audition. So anyway, they had us go away and come back like maybe 2 hours later. So we came back and we learned. I mean, I was there probably starting at 6 a.m. to line up to get my name on a list to be one of the first to audition. I didn't leave there till like 6 p.m. We learned so many different combinations, but they were all different styles. We learned Rhythm Nation.
Mhm.
We learned Heidi Ho.
Mhm.
And I feel like there was one more, but I can't remember which one it was. But they like took us through so many, and Laura Dunlop taught us the combination. Mark and Sherry and Christy Coachman, they were all there. Um, and so I got kept all the way to the end. And by the end, there were like maybe 5 females and maybe, yeah, about 5 or 6 male dancers that they kept in the end. And they didn't offer us a job right then and there, but they went over the contract and what it is and what once you get on board and rehearsals and all that kind of stuff. And it seemed very exciting. I'm like, travel, like, why not? Why wouldn't I want to do this?
Exactly.
Um, and get paid to do what you love. Like, I mean, sure, who wouldn't want to sign up for this? And
I mean, I used
I,
to lay in the ocean on a floaty and go, I'm getting paid right now.
oh, I would have like I'd call my friends, not FaceTime at that time. There wasn't even FaceTime. That
We had
wasn't
our little
even
flip phones.
exist.
We had our little
We had
Nokia.
our flip phones. Oh my God. Did you ever have a pocket mail? Did you have one of those pocket mail
Yeah, I
things?
remember I had a pocket mail because Drew and I won them for being best Halloween costume, and
Yes.
that's how I would do. Okay, segue.
Emails.
We're segueing here, people, on ships. This is how because grandpa and grandma age. Yeah,
Over here.
you're
Yeah.
the mom. Yeah, I'm grandpa age. I'm getting ready to be. I can't believe I'm going to be 52 in like three
Oh my
months.
God. You don't even look it. Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Yeah.
This
Dancing keeps you young. I promise. I mean,
working out.
people,
Yeah,
they see me, they're like, there's no way you're older than like
and I
30.
made
I'm
a deal
like,
with the devil, but other than
oh,
that.
well, other than that.
um, No, here's the thing. Segue. There is this invention, and people won't even know it.
Well, that's because we didn't have internet at the time. That wasn't
No.
like a big thing. There was no internet on cruise ships. We would have to find maybe an internet cafe,
Yeah.
but off when we got off the ship, but that
Yeah.
was it.
And you
So,
wanted to do things when you got off the ship. So, what this little invention is for people that don't know, it was like this little, probably no bigger, a little bit bigger than your phones now, right? And it was called Pocket Mail. And it was like this little miniature storage thing. And I swear, when you sent it, people thought you were sending a bomb through the phone.
oh my
So,
gosh.
like, you would type out all your messages and emails because you had so many people to keep in contact with. And our cell service back then was dodgy. I mean, you could use it in some home ports like Puerto Rico and other things. So you couldn't really call. And we had a ship calling phone, but it cost a lot. So you type out your little emails, you save them, and then like you go to a payphone. You would go to a payphone, right? And there's like a 1-800 number. And then you flip up this little thing that connects to the earpiece and the mouthpiece. And it would send like a signal, and you would sit, and all your emails would send over the phone. I mean, it was a lifesaver back then to have. That's how like you could communicate. But yeah, it was the weirdest little invention. And it was just like you'd store it and boom, and you send it over the payphone and you were done. Because when you got off port, you didn't want to sit there in an internet cafe and like type out all your emails. So it
No.
was actually a wonderful invention back then.
Yeah, because on like a C day, you could sit, write all your emails, and
Uh-huh.
then you get off. As soon as you got off, you did have to get, I think, a calling card and
Yeah.
then use it for the payphone. And then you had to press that button, and there were like five little lights, and
Yeah.
it like went through each light, and that's how you knew they sent. And then it would go backwards, and that's how you were receiving your
Yeah.
emails.
Oh,
And
yes.
sometimes you would lose that connection, and you'd have to start all over
All
again.
over again.
But
Yes.
either way, it was still a lot quicker than going and sitting at an internet cafe and wasting your port day doing that
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
using your little pocket
And
mail
I got
device.
mine for free. I mean, so I was happy.
Yeah, you were happy. But yeah, we're dating ourselves, but that's
That's
okay.
okay. I
That's
kind of
okay.
like that. I haven't thought about that in forever.
Yeah, the pocket mail.
I
Oh
think
my
I
God.
found mine not too long ago when I was like doing like another clean out. You know how you,
Cleaning. Yeah,
yeah, I think I found mine.
I did too, and then quickly got rid of it.
Yeah, I
But
quickly
yeah.
got rid of it. So you got on your first ship. So what was your first ship?
It was the Rhapsody of the Seas. And at this time, we were still at the Roni Plaza,
Yep, the Roni.
the
Yep.
Roni. And we were rehearsing right on South Beach, right? Was it the Crunch Gym? No.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Crunch. And that's where I go to the gym now, the Crunch Gym.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. The
Yeah,
stock
this
in Indiana is quite different than the
in
Miami
the
stock.
Miami one, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. But yeah, I was 19 years old at the time. And there was, did you ever work with Bo Broadwell? Or do you know of Bo Broadwell?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, he and I were the youngest in the cast. We were 19. It was both our first contract, first professional job. Um, so we would be in rehearsal and we learned to rock on Broadway and in the heat of the night. Oh my gosh, talk about like 80s,
Yeah.
totally 80s. But it was so much fun. So we learned those two shows. And on like Friday night, everyone would be going out, but Bo and I weren't 21, so we couldn't go with them. However, they did sneak us into a few places, which was fun. But, we were like the babies of the cast, but it was a wonderful experience for me at 19. And Lonnie Davis was in the cast and Angie Birdsall, well, that's not her last name anymore, but she was our singer. I had such wonderful cast members to look up to, being my first professional job and my first time being away from home like that. I It was just truly like a very special cast to be my first cast. Robert Pendia, who is now like 100 Broadway shows now, he was our dance captain. And this is where Princess started. My nickname, Princess, all started here on this first contract. I mean, granted, my dad used to call me that, but
Right. That's a dad and daughter term anyhow. Yeah.
so when I first got the contract and my mom's like helping me pack, it said, there are formal nights and females had to wear floor length gowns. So we went out and we bought like almost like ball gowns. Like I had
Oh, good
gowns.
Lord.
Okay. So I'm trying to pack these in a suitcase to go live on a cruise ship for 6 months. Anyway, we get onto the ship and the the stage crew nicknamed me 19 because I was 19 years old. I'm sure they all had nicknames for all the new cast that come on board. I was 19. They would always refer to me as 19. Whatever, that's fine. We get into our cabins and the dance captain has their own cabin because they have a lot more
Right.
responsibilities and they just need that space. It doubles as their office. So Robert's cabin was right across from mine. I roomed with Leslie, who was our girl two singer, and we had our bunk beds. And I saw the closets and I was like, how am I going to fit my ball gowns in these closets? So
My
Robert,
Southern belle gowns. How am I going to
uh,
get it?
how am I going to get these into this closet? So everyone had their doors open because we were all in the same corridor. And so we're all, helping each other unpack, talking to each other, music playing. So Robert looks at me trying to get these dresses and all my other clothes into this closet. And he goes, Paula, he says, I have a big closet here and I don't have as much to hang. Why don't you hang your gowns in my closet? And like, we're probably going to be going out together anyway. So anytime we need to get ready, like, you just come knock on my door, grab whatever gown you want and get dressed. Like, no big deal. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So we get all dressed for our first formal night, and I'm in this gown, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Princess Paula from Long Island," and that's where it all started, Princess Paula, and that's where Princess started. And so it was funny until we had we. So originally we were out of San Pedro when we first signed on to the ship, and we did the Mexican Riviera. So we were in Cabo, Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, 7-day cruises back
Yeah.
and forth. Then we repositioned to Hawaii. So we had all those sea days to
Yeah.
get from San Diego to
Oh,
Hawaii.
yeah. We did that run. Yeah.
Right. We did On the Legend together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had like one show in all of those sea days. So we had a lot of free downtime. So Drop Dead Gorgeous was like our big movie. We would go
Oh,
down.
yes.
Remember, we had to rent
Oh,
the VHSs from
yep.
the
Yep.
crew.
But it
Yeah.
was on the station all the time. That was always playing in our cabins as well.
Yes. So we would always have movie night in Bobby's cabin. And we would all sit on his bed. Someone would go down to the crew mess and microwave popcorn, and like we would have movie night. So this one time, his doors closed, and we're all knocking, knocking, knocking. Like, come on, Bobby, it's movie night. Like, open the door, open the door. He opens the door, and he's in one of my ball gowns. He's like, "Hello, welcome." It was the funniest thing, and so he just thought it was funny to like just wear all my ball gowns because they were in his cabinet. He would just answer the door in a different one. Anyway, so but that's where Princess originated, Princess Paula from Long Island. That was me. Um, but yeah, so my first ship contract was amazing. We had an amazing itinerary. I had such wonderful cast members who are now still lifelong friends,
Mhm.
just like you. Like, there are just some people that you connect with that you just stay in touch with, and you see each other. You make the
Yeah.
effort, or if it just happens
I
that
like that. You make the effort. Yeah.
you make the effort to continue to keep a relationship and see these people. Like, it's just amazing how, because if you're judging dance competitions and you're in a different city and you happen to know of, or keep in touch with someone that you worked with on a cruise ship that lives in that city, like, why not see each other?
Right.
And it's just wonderful to keep in contact with these people that now you have friends all over the world, all over the country. So anyway, yeah, so I did my very first contract, loved it. And then I didn't leave the ship with another contract lined up, and I don't think everyone did, but some people
Mhm.
did. Um, and then I got home and I, enjoyed spending time with my family because I was on the ship. I missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, which was 2000. So it turned 2000 while we were under the Golden Gate Bridge, actually. Um, and so I missed like all those big holidays. That was my first time, and coming from a big Italian family on Long Island, like, we celebrated holidays together with like
Right.
aunts, uncles, cousins. So that was like a big thing for me to be away for those big holidays. But it was nice that I had a new family, a chosen family that I got to spend those holidays with. And that's what happens when you're away and working on cruise ships and you are gone for holidays. You now have this chosen family that, we did Secret Santa and you make it
Yeah.
fun. And the
I think
ship arranges like wonderful activities for us and dinners and things like that, which is really nice. But it was a very special contract, one I will never forget. The Rhapsody of the Seas will always hold a very special place in my heart. But then I was home for like maybe a month, And then Christy Coachman called me and she said, could you leave in 10 days and fly down to South America? And I was like, what? Um, okay. And it turned out that the ship was in South America and they required the ship to have a
Wait,
certain,
wait, wait.
I went on
You
after,
replaced me,
yeah. So your cast was replaced by the Argentinian Brazilian cast.
right? Because you went on the
Enrique,
Splendor, yes?
Enrique stayed on
Yes, because I
and
had Enrique in my cast and he stayed on. Yes, yes. We
yes,
just missed each other. I didn't know
yeah.
you did that.
Yeah. And so because they had to have a certain amount, a certain percentage of the crew had to be South American,
Right.
they
Oh,
brought
I
in like a
remember.
whole cast of Brazilians and Argentinians, which is
I,
very interesting because apparently those two don't really get along
it was a tough
great.
transition because I did that ship for a whole year. I did a contract and then I went back to rehearsal and then I came back. So I was there when they started transitioning, not just dancers, because the cast came on to like kind of do a handover with us,
Hmm.
but I was there for the handover of when they started taking all English, doesn't matter where you're from, Russia, Hungary, or whatever it was. I was there for the transition and they were preparing months before and replacing everyone with Argentine, Brazilian, anyone from South America. And so it was rough. It was a
Yeah.
whole different ball game when you were trying to transition that ship down, like, and get a whole Spanish, Portuguese speaking
Hmm.
population. And then you still had, um, and not that it's bad, not that it's good, not that it's whatever, but the people that they were bringing on because they wanted all clientele of they just expected more clientele of South American with Portuguese and with Spanish, that they were transferring people on, and we were still doing a Caribbean and fall like out of Boston. And so you had English speaking, and then the people that they were bringing on, and it's not their fault by no means of their own because it's not like I'm fluent either, but they
Hmm.
spoke very, very little English. So, like, you would have to have a translator that was English with the staff trying to speak to English speaking people. So it was a tough, tough like transition.
Hmm. It sure was. Um, and so come to find out that a lot of the cast, because it they weren't styles of of the show that they were used to doing, they were getting very injured.
Yeah.
So that's how Enrique ended up staying on. And then there was another male dancer and two female dancers
And
that went out.
Elvira came on too, right?
Yes. And so they brought on Tim and Lisa.
Yeah.
They came on and Lisa was the dance captain because they needed someone to like rein
Get everyone
these
to, yeah, rein these
people
people.
in.
She did.
And they called me and so I had to go first fly to Miami and spend a few days there to get my Brazilian work visa. I had to get a yellow fever shot. I had to get all of that done before going to the ship and then flew down to Uruguay, the longest flight of my life. Um, and then when we got there, they took my passport from me at the airport. So now I'm like freaking out. And thankfully there was another musician getting on the ship. So the two of us like stuck together and he was like, don't worry, like I'll take care of you. Don't worry. I was like, oh my gosh, like I was 20 years old at the time, like,
Right.
19, 20. Yeah, I didn't turn 20 until like I was on the ship. But anyway, so got on the ship and again, it was a wonderful experience. We were in South America and then we were transitioning, we transatlantic and we went to Portugal. We got off the ship in Lisbon and the ship was going into dry dock. Well, while we were repositioning, the cast that was coming on to replace us, a girl got injured in rehearsal. So Christy's like, Paula, and Enrique already had that contract lined up. So he was going during dry dock back to rehearse the last like few days with the cast replacing us. And then he was going to fly back and get on the ship with that cast. So I guess a female dancer got injured in rehearsal. So they called and they were like, can Paula come with Enrique and go back because I wasn't there for a full contract. So I was able to continue and do another contract. So when Enrique and I flew from Lisbon together, went to Miami, learned whatever new tracks and whatever we had to do to fit in with the new cast, flew back to Lisbon with the new cast, got on, did an install with them, and did the full contract with them.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and then we still, so we were in the Med for that whole contract and repositioned, and the ship was going back down to South America, and then we got off, and then the cast came on, and then September 11th happened, and I had all four wisdom teeth pulled on my time off, and the only contract that I had lined up was to do the adventure, but like there was some time in between,
Mm.
so September 11th happened. I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and Christy calls me. She's like, Paula, there's a girl on the ship right now on the Splendor again. Um, and she's like just not doing well with the whole September 11th thing. She's from New York and she really wants to go home. Can you fly to the ship in Venice and meet the ship and go back to be a replacement in this cast? And the thought of like flying right after September 11th, that
I
like,
did it 2 weeks. I was in Australia and I had to fly back home from Australia because everything was shutting down like two
that,
weeks after.
but flying from New York
Oh yeah.
after September 11th, my parents, oh my gosh, they were a mess. And like they used to at like up until this point, you could walk somebody all the way to the gate and
Oh
see
yeah,
them
yeah,
get
yeah.
on the plane. But after September 11th, they
Yeah, we
couldn't even come
no,
into the airport with me.
no.
They had to drop me at the curb. And then I got flagged because I had a one-way ticket.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just an experience. But I had to wait because I had the four wisdom teeth pulled and I needed to make sure the stitches and everything healed. And I was worried because when you go on a flight, like all the
Yeah.
pressure would go right there. So I was like freaking out about that, freaking out because it was September 11th. But anyway, turned out to be great. Was back in the Med again. Uh, yes, we were back in the Med and then transitioned again back to South America.
You did a
And then
lot in a year and a half.
yeah, I was like just like almost like a replacement on all these contracts.
And I love doing replacement gigs. They were fun. Just in
Yeah,
and
they
out
were.
done.
Yeah, and then you get to work with even more people,
Yeah,
and go to even more places.
yeah.
But yeah, and so then after that contract, I was done for a little bit, and then I did the adventure. Um, and then I did a few replacement contracts here and there, and then I did the adventure again, and then that was my last contract. Um, but I have to say, like I did it off and on for 7 years. In between, I took like a year off because my best friend was getting married and I wanted to be home for everything. I was the maid of honor. I didn't want to miss her bridal shower and all that kind of stuff.
How did you
Um,
transition into the Vegas world?
so so after doing my last cruise ship contract, um, I moved to Florida because a friend of mine was opening up a musical theater, like dance studio.
Mhm.
And living in New York is very expensive. And at the time, I was just like, I think I want to just try something different. And having spent a lot of time in Florida, I was like, okay, maybe this might be the place to, just spend a little bit of time. Anyway, so she's like, why don't you come down and you could teach all the dance classes at my studio? I mean, knowing like I couldn't survive off of that alone. Um, but I was still like, you know what? Sure. So I moved down to Florida and there was an ad that she saw for a private school that was looking for a part-time dance teacher. So this is the North Broward Preparatory School, and they have dance classes that kids, middle and high school kids can take as an elective, and it fulfilled a PE credit. So they were looking for a part-time teacher because they had two dance rooms and they
Mhm.
only had one teacher at the time. So they wanted a second teacher so they could have two dance rooms going so they could have two different levels within the grades because there are kids that go to outside dance studios after school that were a little bored because they had to kind of find a happy medium of kids that never have danced that wanted to take it in school. But so they wanted to separate the levels. Anyway, I ended up getting that job and I taught in Florida for 2 years and it was a wonderful experience. She doesn't remember it, but Ariana Grande was one of my students when she was in sixth grade.
Oh wow.
She probably,
She's
yeah,
like the second top reference because Lauren is great friends with her. And
oh, yes, and her brother. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and her brother. Yeah. Okay. So look at that. Should we bring her on? She's got mentioned twice. How can I get that to
How
happen?
can you get her? Yeah, she was in sixth grade at the time, and she did spend a lot of time out of school because that's when she was, I think, auditioning and being part of 13, the musical, and then also
Right.
um, getting into Nickelodeon,
Yeah.
that show that she did for Nickelodeon. So anyway, so she wasn't in school a whole lot, but when she was there, she was in my class. Um, but anyway, so I taught there for 2 years, which was wonderful, but I did miss performing. And I said, I always thought I was too short for Vegas because you always think of Vegas
Right.
showgirls, tall, leggy. But I was like, maybe I should just give it a try. So I subscribed to vegasauditions.com. And on my spring break from school that year, flew out there because I had been to Vegas, but I wanted to go back and just like see shows to see what can I actually potentially be in, which shows. So I went, and there were so on some of the Royal Caribbean cruise ships, there's ice skating
Right.
rinks. And so they have an ice cast. Well, one of the pair teams, they're a husband and wife, they lived in Vegas. So when I went there, I saw them, and she was in a show at the Rio Hotel called Show in the Sky. And this stage would come up in the middle of the casino. So people are just playing their slots, and like all of a sudden this show just starts in the middle of them playing their slots. And it's like a 10-minute show, little production show. It's very cute. I would say like a cheesy, typical like Mardi Gras themed like
Right.
Vegas show. And so I watched her in this show, and I was like, I could totally do this. This is like totally doable. Like I could come out here, I could do this show, and then who knows what else I could do.
Right.
Well, after this 10-minute stage show, there's like a roller coaster track in the ceiling. These big floats come out, and there's dancers on the floats, and they're tossing beads to people. So it was like a Mardi, the Rio Hotel
Right.
is Mardi Gras themed.
Right.
So they went with that with the shows. So anyway, I was like, I could totally be in this show, whatever. So she's like, well, I'll give your headshot and resume to our production manager and see if like, anything could come of it. So I said, great. So I go back home after spring break, and then I see on Vegas Auditions that they're doing a new Show in the Sky. A new production company is coming in. They want to make it sexier, and you had to submit your headshot and resume to be considered to audition for the show. So I was like, oh, yeah. So I sent my stuff in, and I got invited to the audition. Well, this was on a Monday that I sent my stuff in. They let me know on Tuesday. The audition was on Friday. So I had to quickly book a ticket, a flight, a hotel, and then they said, the callbacks might be on Monday. So I needed to make sure I could stay until at least callbacks if I got a callback. So I hopped on the flight. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my first Vegas audition. Like, what do they wear in Vegas for auditions? Like, I know what they wear in New York, but what do they wear in Vegas? So I just bought like booty shorts and like a sports bra top. I had my, tan fishnets from Ships. I had my Capezio tan sensible heels from doing Ships. So I was
Right.
like, okay, I'm good. I'll put a lash on, put makeup on, and I'll be fine. So there was probably about 50 people at the audition, and people in Vegas are like, oh my God, this is a big turnout. And coming from New York, where there's 200 people at the audition, I'm like,
Right.
this is a lot of people. I was like, well, that's great for me. Wonderful. And I did see a lot of people that I knew from Ships, whether I had been in rehearsal with them or had worked with them. There were ship people in Vegas. It's like Vegas is like cruise ships on land, really,
Right.
if you think
Right. Right.
about it. So anyway, so I go to the audition. We learn like two different combinations. We did some partnering. Um, and then I said, okay, I see what all these girls are wearing. They're wearing like bras and like two bras. Like you don't wear just one bra, you wear two bras to like help push things up. And like
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they were wearing like not booty shorts, but like boy short underwear. So I
Mhm.
said to myself, if I get a call back, I'm going to go to Target. I'm going to get two bras. I'm going to rhinestone it. I'm going to get little boy short underwear. I'll rhinestone those up, and I'll fit right in with all these Vegas dancers.
Play the character.
Got to do it. So I got a call back. So I went to Target, and I'm sitting there rhinestoning with my E6000 glue, rhinestoning the bra, doing the little booty shorts. Anyway, that bra and booty shorts is still sitting in my drawers because that I think booked me the job. So anyway, so I find out that I booked the job, and I'm moving to Vegas. So I finished out the school year. We had our dance recital, and then it worked out. I shipped my car out there, found an apartment, moved out to Vegas, and started rehearsal for the new Show in the Sky. And that's what brought me out to Vegas. And I was in that show maybe for just like a few months. And then there was an audition for Jerry Mitchell's Peep Show.
Mhm.
And all of us were like, oh my gosh, we want to go to that. Well, our producers arranged rehearsal when the audition was, so none of us could go because they didn't want us leaving to
Right,
go there.
right.
So couldn't go to the audition, but I had a really great friend. I think you know Casey Wilson.
Casey, yes.
So she and her husband, after Ships, had moved to Vegas,
Yeah.
and she was in Peep Show. She was in the original cast. She was in Peep Show. So she invited me to come see their preview. And I fell in love with the show. And I was like, I need to get into this show somehow. Now, rewind back
And
when I
Casey, probably
just,
like the other best beautiful dancer I've ever worked with because
oh
she's
my gosh,
amazing.
yes.
I still love watching her on the socials, teaching her Zumba or dance.
Zumba, oh my gosh.
She's
Her
just so
energy
amazing.
is
Yeah,
just,
she's
yeah.
amazing.
So rewind back when I was 19 and auditioning in New York City. I did my Royal Caribbean audition, but I didn't hear from them. That was like June. I didn't hear from them till October.
Right.
But in between, I was going to Broadway auditions. However, there's equity, which is Actors Equity, which is the union. If you're not in the union, you can't go to these auditions unless you sit around and wait to see if they're going to see non-union dancers.
For
So
Vegas, right?
no, for
Oh,
New
yeah.
York.
Yeah, from New York. Okay.
So I would go to these auditions in hopes to be seen. Sometimes you sit around all day and wait and you don't get seen. Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
So it was always a dream of mine to get my equity card so that I could go to these auditions. But it's like a catch 22. Like you don't get the equity card unless you do the show, but you can't go to the audition unless you're equity. You can
I
do
never got mine because of that reason. And I was in that flux stage with equity where everything was switching over from equity tours to non-equity. And it was like, everyone's going, I want to get an equity so I can get union,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. And then right when I started, it was like, well, everyone's like, don't get your equity card because everything's
then you
going
can't do
non-equity.
tours.
And
Yeah.
you can't
Hmm.
do tours if you're equity because they're not going to pay you. And then it was a flip flop back and forth. So I just never got it. It was just equity is always in or out or in or out. So I just skipped it.
Yeah, well, I wanted it. And anyway, fast forward then to being in Vegas, this Peep Show was an equity show. And I said, I want to get into that show. One, because it's a beautiful show.
Yeah.
But two, if that gives me my equity card and then I can go back home to New York and be equity and go to all those auditions, no problems, that would be wonderful. Now, when I moved to Vegas, I swore up and down, side to side, I would personally never do a topless show because that just wasn't me. I didn't have the confidence to go on stage and
Bare
bear
off.
it all. Um, but, and at the time when I saw the previews, there
Because
were
you're
only
princess. Why would you?
there were only certain features in Peep Show that did go topless, but they had pasties on.
Right.
It's still the same thing. Like you're
Right.
still showing part of your body that if you're not confident like that,
Right.
that is a lot for you to do. So anyway, it wasn't at the time when I saw it. And then a few months after, Casey calls me and she said, Paula, both of our swings are leaving the show. I know you would be an amazing swing. They came around to our dressing rooms and said, if you have friends that you really think are right for this show, that are great people to work with, are good company members, we're just going to have like an invited audition of just friends and people that you guys know in the cast. So she called me and she said, would you audition for this show? Just so you know, it is going fully topless because that's what the owner of the casino wanted. So that's what is happening. And I said, Casey, I swore up and down, side to side, I would never, but for this show and for my equity card, I would. And I said, yes, I would come to this audition. Absolutely. So I went to the audition. Again, we learned so many numbers from the show because they were looking for swings and you had to know, they wanted
All
to
the
see like
traps.
how quick does your brain work? Now, here's a little golden nugget, words of wisdom, advice to anyone listening that is a professional dancer or auditioning in hopes to becoming a professional dancer or not there yet, maybe graduating. If if you want to in any audition situation, what I learned growing up is while someone is demonstrating the choreography, you don't do, you watch. So you can
Correct.
take in all those little details and take in as much as you can. Because if you're doing while they're doing, you're missing 90% of what they're showing you.
Mhm.
So focus first on what they're doing, pick up as many details as you can so that you can apply it the next time they go over it slow with counts, whatever, so that you can take in as much as you can. That is a very strong quality that I do have. I'm able to pick up and retain very quickly and a lot of information. So thankfully, in this audition, learning all these different numbers from the show, I was able to pick it up and and remember the details and the style because that's so important. Not just getting the choreography, but
Right.
performing it and getting those little details that's what makes the difference.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, so thankfully I had all those and I booked the job.
And you did that because I'm going to kind of segue here because we're going
Yeah.
to be short on time here. So
Yeah.
you
Sorry.
did that for many years, and with many stars, you did that, and you wound up being dance captain as well, correct?
I did. Yep. So even at the audition, Nick Kinkle, who was the original dance captain as
And you
well as
know Nick
associate
because I know his
choreographer.
best friend, Lisa.
Yes,
Lisa and
Lisa.
I are like besties. Yeah, okay, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's how I knew she knew you and she stayed with you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, he was the one running the audition, and at the audition, at the end, he said, "So, just so you know, we're gonna hire you, and I would like you to take over for me as dance captain when I leave." And I was like, "Whoa, like, there's people that have been in the show from the
That's
beginning, and
awesome.
you're talking to me about this now at my audition." Like, it was awesome, but it was also slightly I was feeling intimidated,
And you
like, "Oh my
deserved
gosh."
it because that's who you are, and you are like super professional. I would have never got back in the show and did everything because you took the time out of your days and C days to come rehearse with me and show me stuff. You got me back in the show. I wouldn't have got back in the show as quickly as I did if I didn't have you.
Oh, toodles. Oh my gosh, thinking back to that time, oof, we were so scared for you. Oh my gosh.
Well, I just almost died and stuff.
I know. Oh my
Had an
gosh,
hour. I had one
them
hour to live, but
I
that's
remember
okay.
them taking you off on the tender and like trying to get you to the hospital. Oh my gosh. Oh my
And you
gosh.
guys didn't know any news, so you thought I was dying because
We
I
were like,
was.
what is happening?
Yep, like I mean, I literally had 1 hour to live, but that's cool.
But no big deal.
No big deal.
Oh my
Go get
gosh.
your appendix taken out in Mexico. Everyone
Uh,
should try it.
yeah, that's highly recommend.
Highly recommended. I'm
um,
still here.
yes, thank God. Oh,
Um,
whew.
so from there, I want to kind of get into what you're doing now. You did that forever, and you're the dance captain. You worked with many stars like that
Yep,
came in and out of that show.
yep,
Then
I did.
how did
And
you get into this Broadway Bears and what you're doing now?
so Jerry
Because Nick,
Mitchell,
yeah, and Jerry. Oh
Nick
yeah.
and Jerry, Jerry started Broadway Bears.
And can you tell us what Broadway Bears for the people that don't know what it is?
Yes. So Jerry Mitchell, who is, Tony Award winning choreographer director, he started Broadway Bears back, oh gosh, is it 32 years now? 33 years? Anyway, long time ago, when AIDS was a first big new thing, and a lot of his friends were dying. And he was like, what can we do to help? How can we help our friends? And him and a few other dancers went to Splash, a bar in New York City at the time, and they did like cute little numbers, quick little numbers at the bar and raised money to help. And so they helped, it benefits Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS.
Mhm.
And so it went over so well that they did another showing because the bar was like, "Oh my gosh, the line of people that after hearing what you guys did is around the door, like around the building, like we need to do this again." So anyway, it became an annual thing and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And here we are raising over $1 million with this one event alone for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. It's a one night event that happens in New York City that involves all Broadway performers, even like people from national tours, anyone in New York City that is a dancer that,
And stars and different people come in
yeah,
for this.
so many people get involved for this one night event. So anyway, Jerry Mitchell, that's how he came up with Peep Show, is from all his years of Broadway Bears.
Okay.
And what better place to do a striptease show than in Vegas? So that's where
Right.
Peep Show came from. He came out to Vegas one year, and this was before they were able to raise $1 million with Broadway Bears alone. I
Right.
think they got to like 800,000. He said he wanted to raise $1 million that year. I said, great. He goes, I think we should do a Broadway Bears out here, and I think you need to plan it, and you have 3 weeks. Go. I'm like, me, I've never been to a Broadway Bears in New York. I have no idea what they do. Anyway, I planned it, got people involved from all the different shows on the Vegas Strip, and we raised $10,000 in 3 weeks. I had to plan.
That's
Everyone got
awesome.
so involved. It was awesome. Then we did it for 5 years. We did it, and every year we would raise 10 more $1,000. So by
Yeah.
the end, we were raising $50,000. Then Peep Show sadly closed. I moved back to New York because that's home,
Right.
and I got involved with the one here in New York. And it is such a wonderful event. And we managed to get to the $1 million mark. Now we're like surpassing that. It's just amazing. So this year I am the associate director for the show, which is
Awesome.
amazing and exciting and all the things. So I'm
What's
very
the date of
excited
the
for that.
show?
It's June 23rd at Hammerstein Ballroom.
I have nationals. I can't come.
Mm, well, maybe next year.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, there's two shows. There's one at 9:30 and one at midnight. And it's just a fun night. The energy in the space is just electrifying. Like it is being on the stage as a performer is like nothing you will ever experience.
Oh, I've seen the clips and I mean, people just go mad. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it's
is
and what a
crazy.
wonderful event and what a wonderful thing you do. And you get to work with many people. And now that
Hmm.
you've worked your way up, it's that's just an amazing thing. And
Yeah,
I kind of want to ask because I don't know for sure, because you're a show business family. Does your husband still do props and stuff for
he
Broadway?
does. He is right now currently working on a new musical called Lempicka.
Hmm.
It opens April 14th. And so he's in tech right now for that. He just finished working on Gutenberg the musical with
Hmm.
Josh Gad and
Yeah.
Andrew Reynolds. Such a wonderful show. Oh my God, it was so sad that it was only a limited
Right.
engagement. But yeah, so he gets to work with some amazing people. However, we met. He originally was the associate production manager for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. And when I first started with New York Broadway Bears, Jerry and Nick introduced the two of us, and that's how we
Aw.
met.
I I've never met him, but I don't have a prop person. I have a hair and makeup. Do you know Daniel Klinger? He does stuff. I know him from here, but he did New York, he did Aladdin, he did a lot of stuff for a while. He's
The
coming on
name
Monday.
sounds familiar, but
He's singer actor. Now he moves in,
hmm.
lives in Texas and does a lot of movies. He does a lot of
Ah,
ships for Royal Caribbean. He does the hair and makeup for a lot of the new ships and a lot of the Aqua shows now.
oh,
So yeah, he's
yeah.
kind of all over the place. So he's originally from here and he's coming on Monday. Uh,
Ooh,
so yeah, I'm gonna have him on. I've been tracking him down because he's been traveling and he does so much. But he was at Broadway. He was with Aladdin for a while last time I saw him.
mm.
And then he comes back here to Beef and Boards and does some stuff every now and then and does the hair. He's kind of all over the map. But um, I've not had like a stage manager, but I would love to
Oh, a prop
have.
man. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
someone like on
never.
the technical side of things. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
yeah,
haven't had that yet. I've
yeah.
had like a
Well,
stage manager, but I would love to get his perspective on how that entails. I don't have one of those in my pocket.
yeah. Well,
Do you think you
you.
could get me the inside scoop and get me into that?
I think I could do that for you,
Oh,
Toodles.
fantastic. And that'd be
Yeah.
great because he's opening up a show.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so he is in tech right now. We got married in 2017, and then we had our first daughter in 2019. She's going to be 5 in April 1st. I can't
Oh
believe it.
no.
I can't believe it. And then we had our second one during the pandemic, because what do you do when you're home together? You have
Yeah,
another child,
baby. Just
right?
some babies. You buy a
And
dog
so
or have a baby.
so we had my second daughter who is she turned 2 in October in November. Yeah.
Aw,
So we have two
and they're
children.
beautiful.
Thank you. They keep me on my toes, that's for sure. So for the most part of the last 5 years, I've been mom, but I'm ready to get back and I've been to a few auditions and I want to get back. I miss performing and
And
now
what
that
was your I haven't did all the segues, and I know you said he had a plan B and you kind of just worked, and so you had this, but I only have like 4 minutes left here because I got
that's
to
okay.
clear out. But can you because now you have a different thing and it's kind of showy.
It is. It parallels. Yeah.
You are a wedding coordinator, correct?
Yes, I'm a wedding and event coordinator. So I focus on day of, because that's when it matters the most, right?
Mhm.
Could I be a full service wedding planner? Sure, but it's not something I want to do. I want to be a more affordable option because wedding planners are expensive and rightfully so. They're spending a lot of time with you, they're planning your whole wedding with you. However, a lot of people nowadays want to save money because they want to buy a house.
Mhm.
Things are so much more expensive. So
Mhm.
they're planning and doing a lot of DIYs, but on the day of, they want to make sure somebody's there to execute all the hard work that they've done to plan.
Correct.
And that's what I wanted to be for people. I wanted to be that. So I did through the career transition for dancers, which is part of the Actors Fund. You can
Now
get a
say that again.
grant.
Say that again, because someone else mentioned that to me. Say
So
that
through
again.
the Actors Fund, it may be called something different now, but
No, you're correct. You're absolutely correct.
it's career transition for dancers. They help you find what best transition for you is. And then through that, you can apply for a grant, and that will help pay for whether you're getting certified for something or you need to go back to school, and it just helps pay for
Mhm.
that. I got certified for wedding and event planning through the New York Institute of Art and Design. It was an online course that I did. And so I am certified, but I just wanted to have that in my back pocket while I had the time to do the
Do they wear
certification.
ball gowns?
Some of them do. Some of them do, and I know exactly how to handle it and fix it and all of those things. However, being a wedding and event coordinator is much like being a production manager of a show. Like you're running a show basically.
Yeah.
And I've sewn women into gowns and I've helped with hair and makeup and all the things. So being a performer and a dancer, because we need to know how to do all those things, has really helped with my wedding and event
And that's
coordinating
what I wanted to
business.
get to. Like it's come full circle. You've
It's
taken a different
totally parallel. Yeah.
pathway. You had a whole different pathway.
Yeah. And I always wanted to do something that I enjoy. I never want to be in a job that I'm like, ugh, I hate going to work and all that kind of stuff. I've always like whether it was teaching Pure Barre or, while you're doing your survival jobs to go audition,
Right.
I always wanted to do something that I enjoyed that still aligned with being a performer, a dancer, being creative. And so that's why I chose wedding and event planning, as well as growing up in a huge Italian family. And
Right.
Christmas was 50 people alone. My mom was always planning something, making
Right.
menus, making lists, decorating. And so it's just something I grew up around. I enjoy that. Some people that stresses out. Me, I enjoy it. And so, yeah, so I've had my wedding and event coordinating business for 5 years. It allows me to make my own schedule. So
Mhm.
when people send me a lead and they're like, oh, my wedding is this date, if I can't or don't want to do, I don't do one every single weekend. I don't do more than one in a weekend. I just do it enough. Honestly, I do enough to make sure we can pay our mortgage every year.
Mhm.
And that's it, so that I can be home with my girls and be there for them.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
All right, you've just been an amazing, I just love you. I do.
Oh, thank you.
I
I love
miss
you
your little
too.
heart.
I miss
I'm gonna
you.
close this. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's been a lot to reconnect if I get back up to New York, but you're an hour away. Last time we were just all over the map. So we were just like running around. So
Yeah.
I always like to close this out on something I wrote. Remember, pathways are like the path when the sun touches the water. You don't know where it leads or ends, but you never know until you walk that path.
Love that.
Thank you. And I think you've had many pathways. You've done so much and you've been so fortunate. And what I love about you is your heart that you're always willing to help others. And you're like you're just a helpful like soul that and everything that you've done you've helped someone and I just think you're a born leader and I think the things that you do for people and that's just shown in your career as dance captain, director, coordinator. And I just think that shows who you truly are as a person. And, you're a giving princess.
Oh, thank you, Toodles.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You stay on here. I'm going to go ahead and close out the show and then I'll chat with you for a second. And then, yeah. So thank you so much, Miss Paula. It's been a joy. So everyone like, follow, and subscribe. And thank you, my darling. I will talk to you later. Stay on here and we will end it. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.